What's happening around the world
and what's happening here at home. A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Rochelle Tumodera.
And I'm Sandru Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
President meets ambassadors and high commissioners of 7 countries, engages in talks on enhancing bilateral relations and support for economic growth. Rosie's revelation on her luxury vehicle.
මේ පෝෂ් රත්ය ඇත්තටම කියනවනම් දොරවල් අරින්න බැරි ඩිකිය දොර කවදාවත් අරින්න බැරි සන්රූෆ් එකක් තිබ්බ ඒක වේයෝ කාපු වහිනකොට රියදුරාගේ පැත්තේ දොරෙනුයි ඉස්සරහා දොරෙනුයි වතුර ගලන හරියට මේන්ටේන් නොකරපු වාහනයක්.
Various factions request election commission to reinstate the fertilizer subsidy. Iran warns countries aiding in missile defense against Israel will be held responsible. 2024 ICC Women's T20 World Cup begins tomorrow.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
First up in local news, President Anura Kumar Dissanayake held a series of productive meetings today with high commissioners and ambassadors from representing several countries, focusing on strengthening bilateral relations and addressing key issues facing Sri Lanka.
President Anura Kumar Dissanayake met with ambassadors, high commissioners and representatives from Cuba, the United Kingdom, Australia, China, Japan, Canada and India.
Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha called on President Anura Kumar Dissanayake. During the meeting, they discussed the significant progress in the India-Sri Lanka partnership and explored ways to further strengthen the long-standing friendship between the two nations. High Commissioner Jha highlighted the upward trajectory of bilateral relations and reiterated India's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in various sectors. Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kee Zain Hong, also met with the president, reaffirming China's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's future initiatives and enhancing bilateral relations. He assured the president of full support for the debt restructuring process, reflecting a strong partnership between the two nations. Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Mizokoshi Hideki, also met with the president, expressing Japan's full support for initiatives aimed at establishing transparent and effective governance in Sri Lanka. According to the President's media division, they engaged in extensive discussions on mutual interests and agreed on the importance of close collaborations as friendly nations. President Anura Kumar Dissanayake met with the Cuban ambassador to Sri Lanka, Andres Marcelo Gonzalez Corrido, at the President's office. The ambassador praised the President's leadership and expressed Cuba's readiness to enhance cooperation with Sri Lanka. High Commissioner of Australia to Sri Lanka, Paul Stevens, also held a courtesy meeting with President Anura Kumar Dissanayake today. The Australian government reassured its support in key areas, including maritime safety, border control and counter-terrorism efforts. High Commissioner Stevens emphasised Australia's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's IMF program and expressed a strong interest in promoting foreign direct investments in the country. He also highlighted the importance of maintaining economic transparency as a crucial element for fostering investor confidence. The British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Andrew Patrick, called on President Anura Kumar Dissanayake at the President's office today. During the meeting, High Commissioner Patrick congratulated President Dissanayake on his recent election and conveyed the British government's best wishes for his tenure. He also conveyed personal congratulations and warm wishes from King Charles III and the Prime Minister of Britain, Sir Keir Starmer, expressing their goodwill for the President's leadership. Meanwhile, Canadian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Eric Walsh, met with the President today to convey his best wishes. During their discussion, the High Commissioner expressed a commitment to further collaboration aimed at enhancing long-term bilateral relations.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chang, called on Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers today.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chang, met with Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. During their discussion, they focused on the strong partnership between the United States and Sri Lanka. The conversation highlighted several key priorities, including advancing justice and reconciliation, enhancing food security, and expanding access to education. Julie Chang emphasized that the US-Sri Lanka partnership aims to improve lives and foster economic growth and prosperity in the region. She also met with Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The conversation highlighted several key priorities including advancing justice and reconciliation, enhancing food security and expanding access to education. Julie Chung emphasized that the US-Sri Lanka partnership aims to improve lives and foster economic growth and prosperity in the region. The ambassador said she looks forward to strengthening the US-Sri Lanka partnership and working together on shared priorities like security, trade, and upholding human rights. She said that the United States remains committed to supporting Sri Lanka's progress towards national unity, justice, and transparent governance.
Former Mayor Rosie Senanayake, who served as an advisor to former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, convened a media briefing today. And she convened this media briefing to address revelations that former President Ranil Wickremesinghe had provided her with a luxury Porsche Cayenne S while she served as a member of his personal staff.
මට ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ උපදේශක හැටියට පළාත් පාලන ආයතන සම්බන්ධයෙන් තනතුරක් එතුමා ලබා දුන්නේ.
Last year, in May 2023, I was appointed as an advisor to the President on local government institutions. Upon accepting the position in June, I was officially assigned a vehicle which was not a luxury vehicle but an SUV bearing license plate KI3159. After some time, it broke down, and when I returned it to the President's office, I was given a replacement vehicle, a Nissan SUV plate number KD6376. Throughout 2023, all the vehicles I received had issued and were ultimately returned due to various problems. At the time of returning, I was provided with different vehicles at various times, and I carried out my duties without hindrance. However, on the 24th of February this year, when my last vehicle, the Nissan GD7483G, broke down, there was no available replacement. So they gave me a Porsche that had been sitting unused. I don't even know if it's a Porsche or not. I had several meetings to attend that day, but the vehicle broke down on the way. When the driver managed to restart it, I called the transport director at the President's office and told him that I didn't want to keep this vehicle. He advised me to hold on to it until they could find a replacement, so I complied. However, I soon realized that the vehicle consumed an excessive amount of fuel, which led me to refuse to keep it and return it. After I handed it over, they informed me again that they didn't have any vehicles available for me in the meantime. I rarely used the Porsche. I often traveled in my personal vehicle. One day, while driving on the highway, it broke down. The President's office took it back, I believe in April or May. A replacement vehicle, KD6376, was then provided to me. Overall, I have been assigned 8 different vehicles during this period. In reality, the doors of the Porsche wouldn't open properly, and the trunk door was completely inoperable. The sunroof was damaged and leaked water during rain, and there were leaks from both the driver's side and passenger front door. It was a poorly maintained vehicle. When I received it for the second time, it broke down on the main road, and we couldn't get it started again, so it had to be towed. After that, I stopped requesting vehicles from the President's office and relied on my personal vehicles instead. I'm unsure who brought this car into the country, but I regret the situation. I don't know how this vehicle was portrayed by the Sirasa media network, but it's clearly more than 10 years old. Anyone can tell just by getting inside it. The vehicle's condition is deplorable and it breaks down on the road. The transport director of the President's office is well aware of this. People can inquire about it under the Right to Information Act. If the media conducts an investigation, they can look into the matter as well. I have never requested a Porsche or any specific vehicle. It was simply assigned to me for my position and I used it. I'm a woman who has dedicated myself to serving the people of this country. I'm facing accusations now because the general elections are approaching. I have always been targeted during the election period. This needs to stop. Politics should not lead to the disrespect or character assassination of women.
මේක නවත්තන්න. කාන්තාවන්ට අගෞරවයක් වෙන විදියට හෝ ඒ අයගේ චරිත ඝාතන වෙන විදියට ඒ අයට දේශපාලන එපා වෙන තත්යකට ගෙනියන්න එපා.
The continuous acts of fraud and corruption carried out with complete disregard for the lives of the people are a major factor responsible for the current state of our nation. There is no debate among the citizens about this. How many of those who were elected by the people and ultimately exploited them for personal gain are still free from the clutches of law?
But now, Sri Lankan citizenry will be given a fresh opportunity to make a conscious decision, and Newsfirst will support the people to do so. The following is a first of a series of segments, What Happened to Sri Lanka?
What happened to Sri Lanka?
The healthcare system of a country is the cornerstone of its people's well-being. Medicines are essential to ensuring the health and safety of the population.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
What has happened to our healthcare system? There was a time when scandals were reported to have taken place in the process of medicine purchases for desperate patients suffering from severe illnesses. The most recent example of this is the notorious human immunoglobulin and rituximab procurements.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Rituximab is a drug that can increase a cancer patient's survival rate by 15%. But a stock of this drug imported to Sri Lanka while it was in the midst of a severe economic crisis was exposed in courts containing water or another substance. The human immunoglobulin procurement deal also faced a similar outcome. By the time this fraud was uncovered, 2,985 vials of 3,985 human immunoglobulin vials had already been administered to patients across major hospitals in the country. Despite identifying those responsible for this scandal, the fate of the patients who received the fake medicine remains unknown. The questionable stock of rituximab drugs were distributed to hospitals in Ampara, Hambantota, Kurunagala, Peradeniya and Nuwara, as well as the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children. Consignments of both these counterfeit medicines were supplied to Sri Lanka's healthcare system by an entity named Isolace Biotech, which had operated without proper authorization.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
How was this scandal staged without an iota of consideration for the well-being of patients? In 2022, the Sri Lankan government announced it would default on servicing its external debt, virtually signalling the country was on the precipice of bankruptcy. Subsequently, reports surfaced of a severe nationwide drug shortage, and it was attributed to the dearth of dollar reserves, inability to open letters of credit, and lack of suppliers. In spite of assertions made by responsible authorities of a drug shortage at the time, it has now been revealed that the shortage was not as severe as portrayed. On the 30th of May 2022, a proposal was submitted to the Cabinet seeking approval to continue the COVID-19 Emergency Procurement Committee to purchase medicines and medical equipment urgently. The Cabinet approved this proposal without hesitation, and it was decided to procure medicines under the Indian credit line since Sri Lanka was facing a dollar crisis. It was then that a senior level directive was issued to formulate an emergency procurement plan to obtain medicines through the Indian credit line and to place fresh orders for medicines required for 3 months, disregarding existing orders.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Furthermore, a background to import medicines without the necessary registration of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority or the NMRA, citing urgent needs, was also created. Thereafter, the Ministry of Health took steps to procure 285 types of essential and life-saving medicines under the Indian credit line on the 27th of September 2022. This was how necessary plans were made to call for proposals from private suppliers to procure human immunoglobulin. Based on the information revealed thus far, purchasing pharmaceuticals through the emergency procurement process is illegal. Additionally, emergency procurement of a certain drug can only be made if existing stocks are insufficient to meet a month's worth of demand, and an evaluation of the national stock of a certain pharmaceutical must be conducted. But, worryingly, only the numbers available at the Medical Supplies Division had been accounted for in this instance. The substandard stocks of rituximab had been purchased, while an existing stock of rituximab sufficient for around 3 months were already available. The scandal did not end there. On the 25th of October 2022, another cabinet paper was submitted requesting approval to purchase 317 types of medicines, citing shortages. Interestingly, certain types of pharmaceuticals included in the latest list had also been included in the previous list. Although expressions of interest were called to procure medicine through the Indian credit line, the payment for these purchases had in fact not been made through the credit line. It had not transpired that way, since the purchasing of pharmaceuticals to the Indian credit line would involve a process with rigorous observations. A payment in excess of 144 million rupees had been paid to the entity Isolase Biotech for the substandard pharmaceuticals, which were essentially filled with water. These funds had been released from an account maintained by the Medical Supplies Division. Initially, payments of 50 million rupees each were made via 2 checks, and thereafter senior officials had informed for the remaining payment to be prioritized. The owner of Isolase Biotech had secured the funds well before information came to light of the pharmaceuticals' substandard nature. By the time the matter was taken up in court, the company's account only contained a mere 17,000 rupees. These details were exposed during the criminal investigation and now lies before the judiciary with evidence. The people are now aware of those who were implicated in this scandal, arrested and remanded, and those who fell ill while in remand custody. The general public only want one thing, that is, for justice to be meted out for those responsible for these transgressions.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Do you recall the prednisolone eye drops imported from India, which caused irreversible damage to the eyesight of over 20 patients? It was confirmed that this drug contained the microbug Burkholderia cepacia. Use of this drug resulted in many patients facing total blindness. What were the outcomes on probes conducted on this? How were those patients remedied? Sri Lanka's Supreme Court issued a symbolic ruling that the country's worst financial crisis was caused as a result of economic mismanagement. In a country where a majority of its people experience severe strife, there is another group of cronies who did not think twice to earn a quick buck by supplying substandard stocks of life-saving pharmaceuticals. Shouldn't these individuals be held accountable for their crimes before they are allowed to represent the people again? Sri Lanka eagerly awaits justice to be served.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
The fundamental rights application filed on behalf of 8 journalists of MTV Channel Private Limited over the assault carried out against them on the 9th of July 2022 was taken up before the Supreme Court today.
Journalists Sirasa Piris, Varuna Sampath, Janitha Mendes, T. Sindhujan, Imesh Sutherland, W. Virakun, V. Chandran and Lahiru Madhushankarachi have been named as petitioners. The matter was taken up before a bench comprising Supreme Court Justices, President's Counsel S. Dureraja, Kumudini Vikramasinghe and Achala Vengapulli. The senior state counsel, appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the 1st to 4th and 8th respondents, informed the court that the Inspector General of Police has ceased to hold office and that therefore the caption needed to be amended and moved for the case to be refixed. President's Counsel Udita Igalaheva made submissions stating that he has already amended the caption and he is ready to support the matter. Due to lack of time, the matter was refixed for support for leave to proceed on the 7th of March 2025. On behalf of the petitioners, President's Counsel Udita Igalaheva appeared with Damita Karunaratne, N.K. Ashok Baran and Muru Igalaheva, instructed by Attorney-at-Law Charika Wanigabaduge.
Human Rights Watch has called for President Anura Kumar Dissanayake to cooperate with the United Nations human rights investigations.
Human Rights Watch said today that the United Nations Human Rights Council should adopt a resolution on Sri Lanka to enable continued UN monitoring, reporting and evidence collection of rights violations for future prosecutions. The Human Rights Watch said that Sri Lankan President Anura Kumar Dissanayake, who was elected on the 21st of September 2024, should reverse the policies of his predecessors by cooperating with the UN's investigation mechanism, ending the use of repressive laws to stifle dissent, and prevent security forces from targeting activists, survivors of abuses and victims' families with threats and reprisals. Human Rights Watch said that numerous domestic and international investigation commissions, as well as United Nations human rights experts, have made recommendations for reform, which successive Sri Lankan administrations have disregarded.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to hit back, describing the escalation as a big mistake and that Iran will pay for. On the other hand, the Iranian foreign minister said that the Islamic Republic's retaliatory attack on Israel is now over, but if the Zionists react, Tehran would come up with a more severe response.
Iran launched around 180 missiles towards Israel. It is the second attack by Iran this year after it fired hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel in April. Footage carried by foreign media appeared to show some missiles flying over the Tel Aviv area. An Israeli security official said that most missiles were shot down by Israeli aerial defense systems, while foreign media reported from Jerusalem that some military bases may have been hit and that restaurants and schools were hit. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps maintained that 90% of projectiles had hit their targets, saying hypersonic missiles had been used for the first time. The IRGC sources said 3 Israeli military bases had been targeted.
ABC News. Only I work for ABC News.
The IRGC said that attacks were in response to Israel's killing of its top commanders and leaders of Iran-backed militias in the region. It mentioned the killings of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah and IRGC commander Abbas Nilofarshan in the Lebanese capital Beirut on the 27th of September. It also referenced the killing of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July. While Israel has not admitted to being behind Haniyeh's death, it is widely believed to be responsible. Foreign media reported, quoting a senior Iranian official, that the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had personally given the order for Tuesday's missile attack. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran had made a big mistake and would pay for it. Israel Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari said, and I quote, "We have plans and we will operate at the place and time we decide," unquote. Iran's IRGC said Tehran's response would be more crushing and ruinous if Israel retaliated. In 2 separate posts on X, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, said that righteous people may have to make sacrifices, but they will not be defeated at the end of the day. He said they are the victors in the field, in a video showing footage of Iranian missiles being launched. In a social media post, President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, said that this attack was in defense of the interests and citizens of Iran. The Palestinian group Hamas praised the Iranian missile strikes. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned the broadening of the Middle East conflict with escalation after escalation and called again for a ceasefire. The UN Secretary-General has been banned from entering Israel over his response to Iran's ballistic missile bombardment. The White House said Iran's ballistic missile assault on Israel was defeated and ineffective, warning that Tehran could expect severe consequences for the attacks. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel in the strongest terms. And the European Union Council chief has condemned Iran's attack against Israel and said it is a threat to regional security.
Sri Lanka expressed its support for the Palestinian right to statehood at the UN General Assembly, highlighting the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza. Sri Lankan envoy Mohan Perez emphasized the urgent need for international action.
His Excellency President Dissanayake has outlined to the nation his determination to put in place a united Sri Lanka and a transformed ethical political culture. A political culture echoing the wishes of the people. His future trajectory combines nation building based on public trust in governance and in the political system through accountability, integrity, and the elimination of waste and corruption. In order to achieve these objectives, the government has recognized that it is crucial to reinforce stability and confidence in the economy and stimulate growth. The government will work within commitments to reach macroeconomic stability through the framework of international financial institutions and in negotiations with sovereign and private external stakeholders. Big power rivalries and geopolitical tensions have reignited and widened, and new rifts are reappearing on north-south lines. Racism, intolerance, discrimination, and xenophobia against migrants are on the rise. Theaters of conflict and tension have opened up on land and in oceans. Mr. President, Sri Lanka's commitment to maintaining global peace and security has been unwavering. We recognize that peacekeeping is one of the most effective tools to the United Nations to help member states to manage the difficult phase of transitioning from conflict to peace. Sri Lanka has been contributing to United Nations peacekeeping operations in some of the most hostile and demanding deployments. We reiterate our support for the recognition of the legitimate and inalienable right of the Palestinian people to statehood and join the call for a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders in line with all UN resolutions. As a country, Mr. President, that has suffered separatist terrorism for decades, we condemn the terrorist attacks in the Middle East and elsewhere in the world. Sri Lanka calls for complete and unconditional lifting of all unilateral coercive measures imposed against any country, as they hinder free trade, right to development, and have unintended humanitarian consequences.
News First with the people.
A high-level delegation from the International Monetary Fund arrived in Sri Lanka today to engage with the newly formed government led by President Andrukumara Dissanayake.
The primary objective of the visit was to initiate discussions on the progress of the IMF program and necessary steps towards the release of the fourth tranche of the $2.9 billion extended fund facility. The meeting, held at the President's office, featured discussions between the IMF delegation and the economic team of the new government. Both parties reviewed the IMF program so far and outlined the way forward for future collaboration. According to President's Media Division, the IMF delegation expressed appreciation for the significant changes taking place in Sri Lanka, boosting the positive outlook on Sri Lanka under the present government.
The Excise Department says that licenses will not be issued for liquor manufacturers who have defaulted on their taxes.
A meeting took place at the Excise Department today between liquor manufacturers and officials of the department. The discussion had centered on tax collection and future plans for production. According to the Excise Department, taxes amounting close to 1.8 billion rupees are to be settled by liquor manufacturers for the year 2023-2024.
We informed them to pay their taxes on time. We also notified them on several new programs launched by the Excise Department on the recommendations of the IMF. We might have to change certain things next year, including the taxation method, supply to the market and the maximum retail price. We notified them of that as well. A special advisory was issued to settle tax arrears for 2023 to 2024 by the 30th of November. If it is not done, we will not renew licenses for 2025. We also informed them to settle the current tax payments regardless of what inconveniences they may face.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Welcome to Fox Scandal. Your haven for unforgettable experiences.
Gammadda, improving lives, elevating communities. Constructing essential bridges that connect villages in Ampara, Dehiyattakondia. In Rithi Maliadda, Badulla, a new bridge will improve daily travel for over 600 residents in Koleyaya and Aldenia. In Mahayangana, another bridge will provide critical access over the Unagala Oya, meeting the needs of local families. Committed to connecting communities and fostering progress across Sri Lanka. Gammadda, Sri Lanka's most impactful rural development movement.
For the people, by the people. Gammadda.
Welcome back to the news. Discussions to form an alliance between the United National Party and the Samagi Janabalavega for the general elections have failed.
The Samagi Janabalavega has announced that it will contest as the Samagi Janasandhana.
Meanwhile, the United National Party has opted to compete under the cylinder.
The Samagi Janasandhana convened a joint media briefing with the participation of its allied parties.
අපේ එක ඉල්ලීමක් තරම් අපි කරපු ඉල්ලීමක් තමයි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා නායකත්වයෙන් ඉවත්.
We have made a specific request that Ranil Wickremesinghe step down from the leadership and that we form an alliance with the new group. However, it appears they have aligned with a group from the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana. Since they stated their intention to continue working with that group, we felt there was no opportunity for them to join us. We are not willing to accept everyone. We are a strong alliance with our own criteria. We cannot form alliances with certain individuals which have led to the halt of discussions.
නෑ එතුමා මම හිතන්නේ සමාවෙන්න එතුමා අතිශයින්ම දක්ෂයි ඒ ක්‍රියාවලියට. ඒ කියන්නේ එතුමා ජනප්‍රිය ධාරාවේ පැරණි සාම්ප්‍රදායික දේශපාලන පක්ෂ සියල්ලම ත්‍රී වීලර් පක්ෂ බවට පත් කරා. ඒක එතුමාගේ දක්ෂතාවය.
This is former Minister Rajitha Senaratne's stance.
MPs who left the Poho tour, along with those from the new alliance led by Honorable Priyadarshana Yapa, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Ceylon Workers' Congress led by Jivan Thondaman are ready to join us. We, as the United National Party, were in discussions about contesting together along with them in the general elections. For this, we have requested to contest under the gas cylinder symbol. Therefore, we have submitted our application to the Election Commission.
සාකච්ඡා කරන්න විදිහක් නෑ දැන් මොකද ඔවුන් මේක කඩාකප්පල් කිරීම තුල. ඒතකොට නමුත් ඉදිරියේදී ඒවැ ඵල විපාක උන්ට විඳින්නට සිද්ධ වෙයි.
Sri Lanka police officers met with Election Commission officials to discuss the security measures for the general election.
Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya, along with several officers including Secretary of the Ministry of Public Security, former Senior DIG Ravi Senaviratne joined the discussion. The meeting focused on security arrangements and related procedures for the nomination process of the general election that will take place at the district secretariats. Election Commissioner General Samashri Ratnayaka said that officials reached consensus on measures to prevent violations of election laws during the discussions. Meanwhile, a separate meeting was held today between officials from the Department of Posts and the Election Commission.
The discussion centered on preparation for the upcoming general election. They addressed the responsibilities of the Department of Posts, emphasizing the commitment to support the election process just as we did during the last presidential election. We are dedicated to executing our tasks effectively and without any issue for the benefit of the country.
A controversial situation has arisen due to the Election Commissioner's decision to halt the fertilizer subsidy provided by the President for the upcoming Maha cultivation season. Several parties, including the National Farmers Conference, have requested that this subsidy be reinstated to secure the necessary fertilizer at the initial stage of this season's cultivation.
A group of representatives from the National Farmers Conference visited the Election Commission today to clarify matters regarding the fertilizer subsidy. They requested the Election Commission to reconsider and take action to reinstate the halted fertilizer subsidy.
Starting yesterday, farmers have already begun sowing. They should have received the fertilizer subsidy by now. However, not a single cent has been provided so far. Currently, if we buy from the market, the cost of fertilizer per bag is between 8,500 rupees and 9,500 rupees. The government provides 25,000 rupees per hectare to farmers, which is insufficient to purchase even 5 bags of fertilizer. The farming community is suggesting that instead of providing cash, the government should offer the fertilizer subsidy directly. In 2004, farmers secured the fertilizer subsidy after a life-threatening hunger strike. We are now urging the government to continue this subsidy without interruption.
Former Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira appeared before the Election Commission today and requested to reinstate the suspended fertilizer subsidy.
The Election Commission has suspended the provision of this fertilizer subsidy. This has caused significant difficulties to the farmers. Therefore, today we made a request to the Election Commission. This is not about who benefits or suffers due to the election. We presented this request today to sensitize them to the issues faced by farmers and to urgently provide the fertilizer subsidy.
Former Member of Parliament M.A. Sumantiran said that the fertilizer subsidy suspended by the Election Commission should be reinstated for farmers.
Our stance is the same. There is a season for cultivation and we need to look at this accordingly. If this relief is withheld just because an election is approaching, it would be a great loss. Therefore, we too can submit our proposal to the Election Commission, urging that the subsidy be provided in a timely manner despite the election.
The Sri Lankan rupee has shown signs of resilience in the foreign exchange market, strengthening against the US dollar. As per the latest data released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the selling price of the dollar is now 299.35 rupees, while the purchasing price stands at 290.30 rupees.
NVQ සහතිකලාභී වෘත්තීය පින්තාරු ශිල්පියෙක් ශිල්පිනියක් වීමට ඔබත් අදම එක්වන්න. විස්තර හා ව්‍යාපදිංචි වීමට අමතන්න 0777 6040. ජැක් පින්තාරු අභිමාන දේශීය දෙබු පින්තාරු කරන්නේ උන්නතිය උදෙසා.
Gammatha, building a brighter future for the children of Sri Lanka, one project at a time. 11th September 2024, providing water for 250 children of the Nikaputha Mahavidyalaya in Haldumulla, Badulla. 24th August 2024, a solution to a long-lasting issue, the lack of water, for 480 children of the Berali Hala Junior College in Lunugambehera, Hambantota. 7th July 2024, a new library for the children of the Alutwatta Sri Gunananda Junior College in Udugama, Gaul. Gammadda takes the lead to ensure a healthy future generation for a better Sri Lanka.
For the people, by the people. Gammadda.
Welcome back to the news. RoboFest, the premier all-island robotics competition, is back for its 13th edition in Colombo, promoting creativity and teamwork among students island-wide.
RoboFest, the 13th edition of the annual all-island robotics competition for the year 2024, was held in Colombo. Organised by the Department of Mechanical Engineering of Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, the competition features two categories for school students and university students. The preliminary stage of the competition saw registration of 138 schools and 172 university teams, out of which 20 school teams and 12 university teams were selected for the final competition. Awards were also presented to those who excelled in various categories. RoboFest was first started in 2010 with the objective of developing creativity, innovation and teamwork skills among school children and university students. Sirasa TV and TV1 were the official media partners for RoboFest 2024.
The All-Island and Western Cadet Band Boys Championship 2024 was won today by Bandanayake Central College, Wayangoda. This year's Girls' Championship was won by Mahamaya Girls' College, Kandy. The disbanding ceremony of the National Cadet Corps annual Western Band Assessment Camp was held this morning under the patronage of the Corps Director, Brigadier G.S. Fonseca. The National Cadet Corps 7th Battalion representing Bandanayake Central College, Wayangoda, won the Major General I.T. Veeratunga Challenge Trophy for the All-Island Boys Championship. The runner-up was St. Thomas's College, Matale. Mahamaya Girls College, Kandy won the Girls' Championship, while Dharmashoka College, Ambalangoda became the runner-up. The event was made colourful with a parade and a band performance.
The 2024 ICC Women's T20 World Cup is set to kick off tomorrow in the United Arab Emirates, promising thrilling cricket actions as 10 teams vie for the coveted title.
Whatever it takes, yeah. The 2024 ICC Women's T20 World Cup is divided into two groups. Group A includes reigning world champions Australia, who have claimed the title 6 times, alongside India, New Zealand, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. In Group B, fans can look forward to thrilling matches featuring Bangladesh, England, Scotland, South Africa and the West Indies. MTV Channel Private Limited has been awarded the official local broadcasting rights for this highly anticipated tournament, ensuring comprehensive coverage. The tournament will kick off with an opening match between Bangladesh and Scotland starting at 3:30 p.m. local time tomorrow. This will be followed by a highly anticipated clash between Sri Lanka, led by Captain Shamriyata Pattu, and Pakistan, captained by Fatima Sana, scheduled to begin at 7:30 p.m. local time. As the tournament unfolds, cricket enthusiasts can expect thrilling performances broadcast live on TV1.
In more cricket news, Sri Lanka's left-arm spinner Praveen Jayavikrama has been banned from all cricket for a year, of which 6 months will be suspended.
Sri Lanka's left-arm spinner Praveen Chavikrama has been banned after he admitted breaching the ICC anti-corruption code. The player admitted to being in breach of the anti-corruption code, which deals with obstructing or delaying any investigation that may be carried out by the ACU, including concealing, tampering with or destroying any documentation or other information that may be relevant to that investigation and/or that may be evidence or may lead to discovery of evidence of corrupt conduct under the anti-corruption code. The charges relate to international cricket and the Lanka Premier League.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.